Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to a new playthrough on the channel. Interceptor Ace was kind of a flop on Wednesday, and I think some of the problem there was having to worry about the orientation of the planes as well. So we're going to see if taking the orientation of the planes out of the equation, plus moving everything up to nighttime, isn't any better as we play Night Fighter Ace from Compass Games. This is another Gregory Smith design where we're in a night, just like it sounds, we're in a German night fighter over the skies of World War II Europe. I've got my pilot Schultz off shot where I'm tracking everything here. We're starting into October 1943, so I think we are all set looking at everything in shot. So let's get into this one and see how we get on. So we'll start off by noting, by rolling for the raid target. We need 2d6 for that. So we'll get those dice out. Put these two in. And we'll be rolling on A1, which I'll show that off real quick. Here's A1, and we're rolling on October 43. Alright, that's a 4. So the Allies this time, I'll bring it up so you can see. On a 4, the Allies are going after Frankfurt. And the moon, I believe, I don't think there's a roll for the moon. Let me double check that. I know we do check for weather, so it's dark, which means we'll be making our interceptions at -1. Which looks like a new, I think it's either a new moon or no moon, but we will have to roll for weather next, which is a 1d10 roll on table B9. So that's going to put us on this table. All right. So let's see what kind of a roll we get here for our first raid of October 1943. Actually, before I do that, I will note it on my log sheet that we're going after Frankfurt. All right. We'll roll for weather. That's a 6. Moon state is no moon. 6 is good weather. So we're going to get... All right. So we have to roll for a random electronics failure. That table is... Oh, it's this table on B4. So we're looking at this table right here. And that's a 2d6 roll. A 7 says no effect, so we don't have any random electronics failure. Next, we see if we fall for a spoof raid. So I believe we move over to the raid target first. So Dutch, we're going after Frankfurt. It might be a little bit hard to see, but there's a space for each designated space. So we're looking at Frankfurt. So yes, we move to the raid endurance location box. So now we're rolling on... Check for spoof raids. 2d6 on chart A1. That is... Okay, so it's actually not on A1. It's the spoof raid success chart we're looking at. So we'll roll 2d6 for that. Oop. An 11 says we lose 1 endurance box, so we did fall for a spoof raid. So now we're actually starting our roll for interception at France Bremen. Let me just make sure there's nothing else crazy after that. But I don't think there is after we get bit by a spoof, after we get bitten by a spoof raid. There. Check to see if exceptions spoof raids. Okay. We're used to deceive German ground controllers. Okay, so yeah, we lost that, so we roll for interception in each remaining box, and that will be a D10 roll on. That'll be a D10 roll on chart B1, and because it's Dark Moon, we're making these interceptions on a 1D10 at -1. That's an 8 minus 1 is a 7, no interception. Bring the logbook a little closer so I don't have to move quite so far. Next, we're going to Munich. Eight minus 1 is 7, still no interception. And the last blank box. Eight minus 1 is 7, once again, no interception. So now we roll for landing. Landing, we check for weather first. So we'll roll a D10 for that. Three is still good weather. And then we'll make our actual landing roll on chart. So we're on B7. That's going to be another 2d6 roll. And we don't have any modifiers here. That's a 4, so that'll be a good landing. Move over to my log sheet, make some notes. So this was sortie number 14. We'll call this one, this one's another quiet sortie. And we gain, I don't think we gain any experience for that. Do we? We do. Landing procedure, debriefing. I'm still trying to find out if we pick up any experience even on a quiet sortie. I don't see why we would, but... you may abort your sortie, yada yada yada. That's not what I want to find out, though. Are you making experience points? That's back to 10. For every 4 sorties flown, we gain an experience point. So we actually have 3 experience right now. So actually we have 3 XP. So we could buy crew skills, which I don't think we're going to worry about anything for... Ooh, yikes. Cost to buy each skill. So I probably could grab I could probably grab a landing skill, but I haven't had any problems with that, so I'm not going to worry about experience right now. So now we'll get set for... I'll update my logbook to get ready for our second sortie in October 1943. Weather this time, actually there's no moon status, so no modifier there. Which means we'll roll for our target. A 5, This time they're going after Hanover, which will be a Bremen roll, so technically we're back in the hangar. Actually, let me double check the intruder rule. I don't think that's a thing. That's not a thing until April 1944. Okay, so we don't have to worry about that. As I was saying, 5 is going after Hanover Bremen. Rolling for weather. I'll do that once I update my log sheet. So that'll be a D10 roll for sortie, or for the weather. A 6 is good weather once again. Rolling for random electronics failure, that's 2d6. A 10, uh-oh, that could be a problem. Secondary radar's out. Secondary radar, let me make sure there's nothing catastrophic there. Aircraft damage listings, there is not from the looks of it. Do we have secondary radar? No, we don't, so that's effectively no effect. Once I get to the... Alright, so we're going to Bremen. We need to see if we fall for another spoof raid. That was a 2d6 roll, I believe. Yes. Didn't fall for a spoof raid this time. We don't have a lot of space to go, though, so we're starting off with Bremen. Rolling for an interception, and it's a straight roll this time for interception. Be rolling D10. That's a 5, no interception. Moving to Munich. A 9, we have an interception. So now we roll... Let me just look at my logbook so I refresh my memory how I do this. Alright, so we roll for... So now we're on the aircraft target chart for October 43 with another 2d6 roll. A 7 says we are targeting... We have a Lancaster coming at us. Okay. Right. So we've got it. So now we should be going straight into combat. That'll bring us over to the bomber target mat. Lancaster is a speed 14. We're a speed 17. So we will fire first. Conduct combat, okay? So Lancaster, we're going to start combat. Actually, let me double check just to make sure that we do fire first. But I'm pretty sure we do. Okay. All right, interception, which we've got. Okay, beginning fuel be determining by firing with the forward guns. We are going to be using forward guns. So we are going to use them all. Both planes normally have a chance to fire, which I figured. Okay. All right, so we're using our forward guns. We are going to start at long range for this first pass. We're not going to worry about the extended burst. And our aim point We can choose for our aim point to aim at the port wing, starboard wing, airframe, or gunner. I'm going to aim at the airframe for this one. All right. And okay, in the first round of combat each pass, the combat card text determines which aircraft fires first. Loco 143, welcome in. We're just getting the table set for a round of interception in my Night Fighter against a Lancaster. So we're just about to draw our first combat card to determine initiative. There should be a section for okay, so it looks like contact. We're not spotted, we fire first, and the bomber begins to corkscrew in the next round. So that's good to know. So German initiative. And now we'll determine the firepower that we've got since we're using all of our forward guns. It might be a little bit hard to see here. We are spending an ammo. I'll bring this up for a second. Restoring everything. On your weapons mat, you've actually got a number next to each weapon that we use. So we total all of those up. And that's what we'll be pointing to on the card. So we're in the Munich box, base zone Dutch. So looking at the combat card, I believe we take the highest point where the power is greater, but I do like what I see here. Flip over so this is the combat card. Flip the second card. In the first round, the combat card. As far as damage inflicted and who shoots first. So apparently we're supposed to... Okay, so hold that thought. So it looks like this is supposed to be our combat card for the first... Our combat card for the first round of combat. Follow the instructions as far as damage inflicted. Okay. Yeah, so... I'm just double checking the card here, so they're the instructions, so bear with me on that for a second. Extended burst, and of course there's no way to read... Oh, here we go. Alright, so it's to assess damage, cross-reference the current firepower with the closest column without going over. So we are using 16, so we inflict a group point hit, and since we were aiming at the airframe, that's going to bring us over to the bomber damage chart, and we've got the group hits. So we're going to inflict a controls hit. Once I find my pen again, here it is. So we're going to inflict a controls hit. Controls, airframe, and it would be 3 random hits, but because we started at long range, which might be a little bit hard to see, but that is long range, we'll be inflicting 2 random hits. And for that, not the Night Fighter damage chart, there's a separate chart for bomber hits. Let me see if I can track that down here. At least I thought there was supposed... Oh, here it is. There's a chart here where we're aiming at the gunner or the airframe, or aiming at the wing. That'll be a D10 roll. So our first random hit is a 6, so that will be a gunner hit. Okay, and we'll roll the last hit, then we'll get all the chits that I need. A 10 is a Bombay hit. I know in Interceptor Ace, there's a rule based on a Bombay hit, where you might be able to take it out. I've got to see how that works here. Actually, let me get the other chits while I'm looking for the Bombay results. So we had an airframe, we had a controls hit, control surface, airframe, a gunner hit. Right. So I think we roll for the gunner. Oh, so it looks like we just kill. Looks like we just kill the tail gunner. Is what I'm getting from that. Yes, that would probably make sense. That the tail gunner is literally just dead. So let me see if I can find a. There we go. So the tail gunner is now KIA. And okay, we got all of that sorted out. And our last hit was the Bombay hit. That's what I was still looking up. So bear with me while I see about tracking that down. Can take damage from bombers that explode from a Bombay hit if the bombs are still on board. So how? And on a 2d6 roll of 2 or 12, the Night Fighter takes a d6 random damage. Okay, so that's not exactly telling me what I want there. If the bombs are still on board, okay. All right, I just found it here. Night Fighters can take damage from bombers that explode from a Bombay hit if the bombs are still on board, and an 8 or higher is rolled for explosion if the Night Fighter is at close range when this happens, which we're not at close range. So on a 2d6 roll of a 2 or 12, we don't have to worry about that. Bombers are still considered loaded with bombs in the first 3 boxes after takeoff. We took off from Bremen. We're in Munich now, so we've got a possible explosion roll. We'll be rolling an 8 or higher for that. Wait. Why is it saying a Bombay hit in the first 4 endurance boxes, including takeoff, requires a roll? Okay, this is a little bit confusing because an 8 or higher is... I'm a little bit confused because the chart says 7 or higher. This roll is saying 8 or higher. So I'm going to go with I have a feeling that might be an errata. Let me see if there's an errata about that. And of course there is not, because that would make too much sense. And we can't have that now, can we? That would be 7-2-19-3, but of course it's not. It's not in here. Wonderful. All right, so it looks like we're rolling a 2d6 for the bomb. Looks like we're rolling 2d6 for a Bombay explosion. We want to see a 7 or higher for an explosion. That's an 8, so that will be the bomber exploding, but it will get to inflict hits. We had a Lancaster that we rolled for interception, and we're taking it out. But the bomber will get to inflict 3 hits on us in return. But that'll be 2 hits because we're still at long range, so -1 hit for 2 hits. For our hits, we'll be rolling on a different chart. Once I find it here, that was bomber chart. We're rolling on the Night Fighter damage chart here. We'll be rolling these dice. I don't know how familiar you are with APA, but we'll be rolling them black as our 10s, then white as our 1s, and we'll be combining them. So a roll like this would be a 45, not a 9. All right, the 25 is going to be a port engine hit. That could be bad. I don't think we have to abort just for having one engine taken out. For each engine that's damaged, the craft loses 3 speed. Okay. So we're down to 14 speed now, which might be something to keep an eye on. Then for our other random hit, that's a 45, and that's a starboard wing hit. I'll get a couple more damaged chits out for a port engine hit and a starboard wing hit. Hopefully we don't get any interception in our last blank box. But there's only one way to find out, and that will be for me to roll the dice once I get it noted. Hey Jester, I saw you were streaming earlier. It was Dungeon Roll, I think, or something like that. Hopefully you had a good time with that, and you're just in time for our second sort. You're just in time for my last interception box of my second sortie. That's a 1. We are unsure of our location, so we definitely got lost, but we're going to be landing next anyway. Unsure of location means we would lose... Is that 1 or 2? That was a natural 1. We would lose... Treat the next... Actually, we would lose... We'd essentially lose 2 endurance boxes, but we are going to be trying to land this thing. Dungeon roll. Yes, it was good in a quick 10-minute game. Nice. We'll check for our landing weather, which will, of course, modify our landing roll. 2 is good weather, so no modification there. And now we see if we can put this bird on the ground. We're back on the landing chart once again. Welcome in, Christoph. How's it going? You're just in time to see me try to put this bird down after my second sortie of the afternoon. That's a 6, and we put it down nice and clean with a safe landing. So on this second sortie, we actually bagged a Lancaster. Actually, I'm wondering if there's a check for a confirmed kill. There might be. I wouldn't think there would be a... I would think watching the plane explode from a Bombay hit would be enough confirmation, but I could be wrong on that. Every time a pilot receives a prestige point. Every time he receives an award, that's how you get those. Alright, so it looks like we're just about getting set for our third sortie. Yes, it is technically it's, for where I live, it's War Room Day, but either way, Saturday is going to be the War Room in about an hour and a half, for those of you who aren't familiar with the War Room that Jester Ruff and, what the hell is his name, Nate host every Saturday. Hopefully I'll be able to stop by and actually watch this one rather than just lurk during it. But it looks like we can get at least one more sortie, and I've got plenty of time before we get to that. October 43, this will be our third sortie. Any special... the moon is bright this time, so we are going to have +1 to our interception rolls. So it's a 2d6 roll for interception, but I'm getting ahead of myself on that front. Actually, we might just... Okay, we don't just get bright. We don't just get the raid canceled on us on a bright, but I think a full moon has consideration. I think full moon may get our raid canceled, but I'm trying to remember how. And of course there's no check for the moon state on that. If this is a full moon roll, which this again is not, so we're getting... Oh, and I bet that's what the R is on the... I bet that's what the R is for on the raid chart. Didn't I just play this system the other day and not have a good time with it? It is slightly the same system. Interceptor Ace was a game I didn't have a good time with, but I think part of the problem there, and I was talking about this during the intro when I started, was I think part of the problem was I also had the orientation of the planes I had to worry about, and that was confusing me a bit. Whereas Night Fighter Ace doesn't have the plane orientation to worry about. It abstracts a lot of the It seems like it's abstracting a lot of the air combat aspects of a lot of the what's the word I want? A lot of the details of the air combat, where you've got to worry about, okay, are you on the opponent's tail? Are they tailing you? It seems like it's abstracting a lot of that. So I think I'm warmer to this game than I was to the Interceptor Ace games. And I got sidetracked because I was just about to roll for our raid chart. Sorry for the ramble there. I got a little bit off track. That's a 4, so yet again, the Allies are coming after Frankfurt. All right, making another note in the log sheet. Rolling for actually, we roll for weather first, I think. Yes. That'll be a D10 roll. That's a 7, so we just barely still have good weather. Now rolling for our random electronics failure. So for that, in case you're not familiar, I'm on this random electronics failure table. That is a 2d6 roll. That's an 8, so no effect. Okay, now moving into the takeoff box. So this is Frankfurt. We need to see if we fall for a spoof raid. That's a 2d6 roll. That's a 9, so just barely, but we don't fall for a spoof raid. It was close. Right, yes, on a 10 we would have lost an endurance box, but nothing there. So Berlin, Frankfurt. Rolling for interception on a D10, and we'll be making these at a +1 on a bright moon. It's not full, but it's bright. That's a 5 + 1 is 6. Still no interception. Moving over to France, Bremen. Oop, gotta reload the ammo. Eight + 1 is 9. The bright moon is going to tip us into an interception. And the target that we're going to be rolling against. Yep. So we have an interception, and that was a 2d6 roll on the aircraft target chart. A 9 says we are going after a Halifax H2S. So that is... They're not a separate... They're not a separate... There might not be a separate target map for the Halifax H2S. So I might just be using the regular Halifax. Let me look here, though. Not in the box. Let me see if it's on the back of the bomber target mat. It is not. Okay, so it looks like we're just using the regular Halifax, which is a speed of 14. So we'll be starting from long range. Since we have the initiative on this interception. Okay. We're just checking Because I know there's a potential problem with initiative, and I think it has to do with speed. It has to do with the speed of the craft. Okay, firing with forward guns, yada yada yada. That's not what I want. As the Night Fighter will automatically begin to corkscrew. Okay. Still not finding speed, but I know speed has something to do with British Night Fighter. Okay, so it's listed. Okay, so the initiative only comes in when we're going against mosquitoes. It looks like otherwise we attack like normal if we end up facing something that's not a mosquito. So we're going to use all of our forward guns. We'll flip over the first card. That will also be our combat card, now that we've got that straight. So we're firing with a total of 18 firepower. Not spotted, we fire first, and the bomber begins to corkscrew. So we'll be dealing 4 minus 1 is 3 hits. 1, 2, 3. We'll roll those up. And I forgot to determine where we were aiming. I usually aim at the airframe to start. So we'll just go with that. Remember, 4 minus 1 is 3 for long range, which is where we're starting. A 9 is a starboard engine hit. Next hit. Starboard engine for a Halifax, which is right here, I believe. Five is a controls hit. And we'll roll for the last hit. Control surface. That's a 3. That'll be an airframe hit. So we'll get another airframe hit for that, which goes right there. And now for the bomber, they will be dealing out, they get to deal defensive fire back, which is another 3 minus 1 is 2 hits. One, two. And we'll flip over for the Night Fighter damage chart. Yes, I apologize that some of the charts are hidden by my dice tower, but it was the only place that I had that I could put the dice tower down. A 36 is a controls hit for us. That could be bad. That could cause us to just get shot down. And 35, that's an airframe hit. So we'll deal out an airframe hit. I also forgot to take the hits off from the last sortie that we went on. So we're facing a Halifax H2S. All right, now we have to make a decision of if we're moving in to close range. And I think we are going to. We'll again flip over. So we are going to move into medium range, which now takes away the hit penalty range. And we are going to once again use all of our forward guns. So that's going to be 18 firepower again. We're aiming at the airframe once again. And this time we'll deal out a group point hit. So a group point hit on the... So a group point hit, since we were aiming at the airframe, is going to deal controls, airframe, and 3 random hits. And we get all the random hits this time because we are at medium range now. So we'll go controls, airframe, and 3 more random hits. I'll get 3 more chits ready for that. Another D10 roll. A 7 is going to be a no effect. Next hit is a 10. That's a Bombay hit, so we'll have to roll for an explosion on that. And 7 is another no effect. So let's see if the Bombay gets it taken out. Or will get it taken out after we resolve defensive fire. Once again, we want to see a 7 or up for an explosion. That's just barely a 7, so that'll be an explosion. But we have to roll for defensive fire from the Halifax first. We'll draw another card from the combat deck, and here we find no hits. So the Halifax actually just gets taken out, which is very welcome for us. We've got 1 more cannon shot if we want to use it, but we've also got 2 more. We've also got 2 more endurance boxes that we've got to go through. So we'll move over to Munich next. Still making these interception rolls at +1. That's a 1. We're unsure of location, so we lose the next 2 boxes and we go straight to landing. We'll check for landing weather first. Landing weather 6 is still good. And for the landing roll, that will be on this side. That's a 2d6 roll. That's an 8, and we managed to put the bird on the ground. Excuse me. Alright, so since this was our 16th sortie, so we actually pick up another experience point, which now brings us up to 4. So now, during debriefing, we could potentially buy a skill if we wanted to, and I think we're going to sit tight on that, actually, for the time being. So we'll move into October 1940, our fourth sortie of October 1943. But this one is a full moon. So we're going to have to roll for possible raid being canceled, which it would be canceled on a... on a roll of a 1, the raid was canceled, so there was no sortie. Alright, so we are going to go ahead and roll for target. That's an 8, so we're looking at... This one's going after Munich, so this one's going to be a fairly short sortie. So full moon plus 2 on interception if the raid doesn't get canceled? Yes. But no, I'm actually slightly rambly here, but I am having a lot of fun with this one. So this will be a D6. We'll see if the raid gets canceled. It's canceled. Oh, I think we actually roll for weather first. So weather... which that might get the raid canceled before we even factor in the full moon. Weather is bad, so that could be a problem. That would make landings difficult, but we're also taking we're taking off here, so the raid doesn't get canceled on the weather, but it might still get canceled on a full moon. On a 1, the raid gets junked. 1 on a D6, yes. That's a 2, so raid just barely goes. And now we go into the rest of the raid like normal, starting with random electronics failure. Three, uh-oh. Main radar's out. Oh, that's going to be fun. I'll have to see what the main radar being out means. Nothing good, obviously. Radar. Controls. Any electronics is inoperable for the rest of the sortie. I thought there was something special. Oh. Is it maybe a... I thought for sure it'd be a landing modifier, but apparently not. That's actually moderately surprising that there's no landing modifier to when the radar from when the radar is out. I'll say it in English one of these days. Reload our ammo. No, apparently there is... Nope, apparently there's no modifier for the radar being out. I thought for sure there would be, but maybe the modification is on... Okay, the modifier is on interception, so no working radar present. But first we have to see if we fall for a spoof raid once we get to Munich. This will be a fairly short sortie, I would expect. A 6 says we don't fall for a spoof raid. So now we'll roll for Munich, making our interceptions at a +1, +2 for intercept, or +2 for the full moon, -1 since our main radar got knocked out. Two -1. A natural 1 is always unsure of location, so that'll actually turn us into... Actually, 2... We said net +1 is a 3. That's still no interception. And the blank box... 2 + 1 is 3. Again, no interception. So now we're trying to put this bird on the ground. Roll for landing weather. 7 is still good. Suddenly the weather got better for us. So landing roll. We're -1 because of the full moon. That's our only modifier here with 2d6. That's an 8, -1 is 7, so we're going to have a safe landing. So very nice there. That was sortie number 17. Where were we going after? Munich. Oh, I already noted that. So this is sortie 17. Quiet sortie. And I wanted to go for about an hour. I think we'll do one more sortie, and then we'll call it a stream after that. So this is our 5th sortie of October 1943. We have a bright moon again, so we're making our roll at +1 interception. We're making interception at +1. So let's see where the Allies are going this time. Nine says the Allies are going for Leipzig, and Berlin is the closest hub. I'm probably butchering the high holy hell out of some of these German pronunciations. Checking for weather. Wow, it's focused on the dice tower. Hopefully that's not too big a problem for you guys. 3 is good weather. We'll adjust that down to bright. And we've got random electronics failure to check for. Six says no random electronics failure. Moving over to Berlin as our takeoff box, we have to see if we fall for a spoof raid first. Three says we do not fall for a spoof raid. So going to Berlin, Frankfurt. Take a quick drink from my Crystal Light. About 20 to 30 minutes per sortie. Yeah, that seems like that sounds about right, I would say. Obviously, if you have things happen like you fall for a spoof raid within 1 or 2 points from, if you fall for a spoof raid within a point or two of landing, that'll make the sortie go a lot faster. Or if you end up unsure of location multiple times, that will also speed up the sortie considerably. But otherwise, yeah, probably about 20 to 30 minutes per sortie. It's actually fairly quick. So looking at Berlin, Frankfurt, that's a 1 + 1 is 2. That's a no interception. We shouldn't be seeing any unsure. Actually, that's a natural 1, so never mind. That is an unsure of location. Which means we actually skip France and Bremen and go over to Munich. That's a 5 + 1 is 6, also no interception. Last blank box. Five + 1 is 6, again, no interception. So now we're into putting the bird on the ground. So we'll roll for landing weather. Hopefully it's still good as we try to put this thing on the ground. A 4 says we still have good weather. And our landing roll is a straight D6, no modifiers that we have to worry about here. A 10, ooh, just barely a safe landing. Yowza, that was another close one. We must have hit a rock or something just so and skid it off a little bit, but we managed to keep control of the plane and get down on the ground safely. So I think after five fairly quick sorties, that's where I'm going to call it for this playthrough of Night Fighter Ace. As I kind of thought I had a feeling was going to happen. Once I take out the details of worrying about the plane orientations with stuff like whether your plane is being tailed, whether you're on their tail, stuff like that, I actually really enjoyed this. I actually really enjoyed Night Fighter Ace. Like I said, without having a lot of that system in there, without having a lot of that plane orientation system in there. I really enjoyed this one, and I think I'd probably enjoy starting to put together some of the after-action reports like I've started doing for Mag 23 Guadalcanal. But I'm starting to ramble on this one a little bit. Like I said, if you like having the extra detail of the plane orientations in there, you might like Interceptor Ace a little bit better. It does play a little bit longer, Jester, so be aware of that. At least it was playing longer for me, because I was also having to figure out the orientation of the orientations of the fighters that I was getting into. Although, if I remember correctly, you didn't have a lot of love lost for Interceptor Ace either. I could have my wires crossed on that. For some reason, I vaguely remember you not liking Interceptor Ace as much, but again, I may have my wires crossed and I'm starting to ramble a little bit. Again, I like Night Fighter Ace, so we'll just leave it there, and we'll go ahead and wrap this video up. As for what's scheduled on the channel, Mystical Munchies for today with the Hoodwinked Honey Carrots is live on the channel. Also didn't like Interceptor Ace. I kind of remembered that, but I wasn't completely sure about that. Anyway, there may be some more streams coming this weekend. I haven't completely decided yet, though. But for sure, what's scheduled on the channel. Tomorrow we're continuing the fall campaign in Astro Knights Eternity. Wednesday we're starting a new background campaign of Hero Realms. And next week, Mystical Munchies will continue out of the official Diablo cookbook with the entree, Necromancer's Broiled Fish. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.